so I have to be nice, right? Yeah. But I actually think he's very nice. I think he ran a great race. He did very well.
She talks about my record. For 5 years, I was the chief prosecutor, prosecuting people who went to prison, many of whom were then deported.
Is obvious, but border security is equally obvious in my view, and that's why I've said we are committed to bringing down immigration.
A small hotel owner just rejected an offer that would have doubled his income for a full year. All he had to do was fire most of his staff and turn his historic property into migrant accommodation. Why would anyone turn down such lucrative financial security in today's economy? The answer reveals everything wrong with the government's approach to the migrant crisis and how ordinary citizens are fighting back against Starmer's policies. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Imagine receiving a letter from the government that seems like the ultimate business proposition. Double your annual income with minimal effort. Too good to be true? That's exactly what one hotel owner thought when Starmer's Home Office approached him with an offer to house migrants in his historic Castle Hotel.
Of course, I wouldn't want Donald Trump round for dinner, but don't underestimate the danger to the world if Trump is re-elected this time around.
Kier Starmer, the UK Premier.
Yes, he's coming tonight.
What do you think of him? Some of his colleagues in government are quite critical of you.
Well, I'm going to see him in about an hour.
The letter, followed by a persistent phone call, initially struck him as some elaborate practical joke. But this was no joke. It was a deadly serious proposal that would have transformed a beloved local landmark into a migrant accommodation centre overnight. I thought it was a wind-up at first, the hotel owner explained. The figures they were throwing around were astronomical. Double our annual turnover just to house migrants in a 14th century castle with 4-poster beds and antique furniture. It didn't make any sense. The initial dazzle of the financial offer quickly faded when the true costs became apparent. The government representatives casually explained that the hotel would need to release almost all of its staff. A devastating blow in a village of just 300 people, where alternative employment is scarce.
Tax to record levels. They have broken their promises, and it is the working people of this country that are going to pay the price.
Has the time not come, Prime Minister, to prescribe what is so obviously a terrorist organisation?
Out of a team of 28 dedicated employees, only 3 would remain to manage the entire operation. These workers weren't just employees, they were neighbours, friends, and pillars of the tight-knit community. The absurdity of the situation becomes even more apparent when you consider the juxtaposition. Migrants housed in luxury 4-poster beds in a historic castle, while elderly residents in the same village struggle to pay heating bills or make ends meet. This isn't about denying help to those in need, but questioning the priorities and methods being employed. The Castle Hotel isn't just a business, it's a cultural centrepiece, an economic engine for the entire community. Consider the ripple effects throughout this tiny village if tourist spending disappeared overnight. The local pub that thrives on visitors stopping in for a pint after touring the castle.
I'm anti-Trump. I would like to send my warmest congratulations to President Trump.
So I have to be nice, right? Yeah. But I actually think he's very nice. I think he ran a great race. He did very well.
The gift shop selling handcrafted goods from local artisans. The family-run bakery that supplies fresh pastries to the hotel each morning. These businesses don't just provide services. They represent generations of local tradition and heritage. What's perhaps most shocking is the government's clinical, detached approach to the whole affair. Their instructions were coldly efficient. Clean rooms once a week, take photographs of any damage for taxpayer reimbursement, and maintain minimal staffing. There was no consideration for the hotel's historic significance or the cultural impact of such a dramatic transformation. They told me not to worry about potential damage to antique furniture or historic features, the hotel owner recalled with visible frustration. Just take photographs, and we'll repair everything at taxpayer expense, they said. as if you can simply repair or replace items that are hundreds of years old with historical significance.
So I have to be nice, right? But I actually think he's very nice. I think he ran a great race. He did very well.
She talks about my record. For 5 years, I was the chief prosecutor, prosecuting people who went to prison, many of whom were then deported.
This cavalier attitude toward property damage reveals a fundamental disconnect between Whitehall bureaucrats and the realities faced by small business owners across Britain. The historic value of such properties transcends mere financial compensation. Some things, once damaged or lost, cannot be replaced at any price. The human cost would have been equally devastating. Imagine the scene, telling 25 loyal staff members, some who've worked at the establishment for decades, that they're suddenly unemployed because the government has decided their workplace is more valuable as migrant housing.
On his inauguration as the 47th President of the United States.
It's very early, but he's popular, and I'll be seeing him, and I'll send you a regard.
In a rural setting, with limited public transport and scarce employment opportunities, these aren't just jobs being lost, they're livelihoods being destroyed. And what does this experience tell us about the government's approach on a national scale? This isn't an isolated incident, but part of a systematic strategy playing out across Britain's communities. While major hotel chains with corporate structures can absorb such changes, independent hotels and small businesses face existential threats when targeted by these policies. For many local residents, the most disturbing aspect isn't just the practical implications, but what this represents symbolically. A historic building that has stood for centuries as a symbol of local pride and heritage would effectively be requisitioned with minimal community consultation, transforming its identity and purpose overnight. While this brave hotel owner stood firm against government pressure, his story represents just the tip of the iceberg. Across Britain, a quiet rebellion is brewing as small business owners and local communities increasingly resist these migrant housing schemes. The contrast couldn't be starker. Major hotel chains are reaping enormous profits from government contracts with...
She campaigned to remove the cap on migrant worker visas, and now she pretends she's furious about the open borders policy of the last government.
I will defend our decisions in the budget all day long. I will defend facing up to the harsh light of fiscal reality.
With many establishments now filled to capacity with migrants, while small independent businesses face extinction. What's truly at stake here goes far beyond immigration policy. This is fundamentally about whether local communities retain any meaningful say in their own futures. The battle lines are being drawn between corporate hotel chains, getting rich off government contracts, and ordinary Britons watching their communities transform without their consent. Other business owners are joining the resistance, concerned about the strain on local resources and cultural impact on small communities. In the face of Starmer's bureaucratic machine, it's these everyday citizens showing remarkable courage by simply saying no